everybody, and welcome to Girls Run These Worlds, our amazing episode of Community Cleric tonight with Puja. I'm so excited to have her here.
And I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. I start by acknowledging that I live in Mi'kma'ki. This is the traditional unceded territories of the Mi'kmaq people. I'm from Nova Scotia, Canada, and I am privileged to live, love, learn, and grow here on this land. And we are treaty people here in Mi'kma'ki. I want to introduce Puja, who is doing all the things. I think is the fairest
Too many
way
things.
Too many. I don't know about that. I don't know if I'll agree with that. But you live your own truth. I like all the things. You are doing you've just finished two back-to-back charity nights.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the other games and streams and the other stuff, and then the AAPI month stuff that's coming up. I know you're going to be on a panel with our very own Anne, who runs our Regency Remixed game. You're doing all of the things.
There's so many things to do.
How do you learn to? I will ask. How do you pick projects? How do you say no to stuff that's super? Do you say no to stuff? I don't.
So. One at a time. How do I pick projects? So in the beginning, when I started out, I really picked up what I was doing in virtual tabletop during the pandemic, like a lot of people did, because, I wasn't going anywhere. And so at that point, it was just the more I can pile onto my calendar, the better, because I literally never had anything to do in the evenings. Right. And, now I am trying to be a little bit more conscientious about the games that I play. One of the things I require, so I don't have an issue in terms of the gender spread of any of the games I'm in. I think it's one of those things where the community that I have built is very diverse in terms of gender. So that's not a huge concern, but I do make sure now that if at all possible, unless I've already pre-committed to things or it's something that I've been involved in since the very beginning, I won't take new projects unless there is more than just myself on the table who's not a white person. Right. So I require at least it's just it's a comfort thing. It's honestly it's not difficult, and so I want to make sure that everybody involved is aware that they need to do the bare minimum.
Right. Which is not just one. The bare minimum,
which is not just one.
For sure.
More than one.
Yeah.
But luckily, I play with a lot of people who feel the same way, and so I'm happy to say that it's very rare for me to have to bring that up to somebody new. Because what I love about how the community is moving is now when folks do approach about projects, or I do apply to projects, they're either very upfront about their commitment to diversity, and if somebody is messaging me, they say, hey, by the way, you will not be the only person of color in this game. And they'll say that off the bat, and if not, just offer all the people that they're looking to play with. Right. And so that adds a lot of comfort level. So that's kind of how in terms of requirements, the only thing I have right now. And as for saying no, that one's a really difficult one for me. I'm very good at saying no in my day job, but it's hard to just not be oh my God, they want me. When it comes to this stuff, and say no, even though, you kind of have to at some point for your own, mental health. Yeah. I'm still learning that, and it's hard, which is how, This month was basically the month of overcommitment for me, but we're coming to the end of that.
Are you not going to dive into Pride Month with agreeing to everything?
Well, I already have a couple of long-term campaigns, and I haven't picked up anything. I think I will do one-shots and things as they come up, but I haven't committed to a 4-week arc to anything yet, because that's what I find myself too trapped in, is that a lot of these charity streams and one shots come up, and then I'm oh no, but I'm already in a 6-week thing, and then all the 6-week things pile up, and then it's chaos. And for me, the other thing that I'm doing right now is I'm kind of letting myself go wild with as many streams as I can because my fiance is on the other side of the planet, and once she gets here, that's not going to be a thing that I can do as much. So I'm just like, you know what? I'm getting it all out of my system, playing as much as I want, and then I will want to and need to pull back later in the year.
Does she play?
She does not play because her introduction to tabletop has mostly been watching actual play streams, and she's just like, yeah, I'm not an actor. I'm not an improviser. Like, I think, but I will be playing two player RPGs with her when I can finally like sit her down long enough. I haven't been able to do it remotely yet, but in person, I will get my chance.
Yeah, absolutely. I love what you said about making sure that you're not the only person of color. That has been so critical. Our founders here on Girls Run These Worlds, I'm one of 4, and I'm the only palm-colored person. That's my favorite TikTok saying so far.
I've heard that one.
Isn't that good? Like,
that's a good one.
That's my favorite so far.
Although, I mean, I'm pretty close to the color of my palm.
That's okay. That's fair.
I am a light-skinned brown woman, though.
Sure. I am the only manila envelope is the other one that I really like. I am the only palm-colored founder. It's 3 other women of color,
Nice.
And listening to them and listening to so many other people speak clearly about those experiences on Twitter made us, in our casting process, we go through a 3-stage casting process. So we get people to fill out the casting form. The creator, the GM, storyteller, whomever it is, looks through with us because we're looking across like channel diversity, making sure people are comfortable with each other, and we're kind of keeping an eye on that. They are casting their specific, limited series of whatever they want. When they have figured out who they want, we reach out. We say, are you available for these dates? If so, we're asking for a soft commitment. Once everybody has agreed to that, we're going to send you the list of the rest of the cast so that you know who else has agreed. You can do your own vetting. You can make sure that you're comfortable with them. And then once we get a confirmed cast, we'll bring everybody into Discord and get started.
That makes sense.
And that has been so good for everybody. Like, everybody has really appreciated that, taking away that fear of, well, what if there's somebody who I am, I've had a not great experience with, or, whatever the situation is, or I don't want to be the only person of color or the only LGBTQ or neurodiverse or like whatever it is. So yeah, like I hear that. Thank you. Anne says it's been awesome to have that casting process. Thank you. She cast an amazing group for her show. I want to go back to the beginning. How did you become a nerd?
It came by it naturally, in that it was organic. I grew up in Saudi Arabia because my dad works in the oil and gas industry, and there really wasn't that much to do, and so I fell into the classic trap of escapism. And just started strong. I started out because we didn't have libraries or anything. I basically started out reading anything I could get my hands on, which in large part was this secondhand set of childcraft encyclopedias that somebody who was moving back to the US was leaving behind. And I read every volume cover to cover multiple times just because I was so desperate for reading material. And because of that, I kind of tried all the genres and just eventually found myself gravitating more towards fantasy. A big influence in terms of fantasy. Before my parents moved to Saudi Arabia, they knew that they weren't going to have any media, so they recorded a bunch of movies and TV shows and stuff on Betamax. That's how long this was, and took them with us. And so those were kind of a lot of the media I had access to. But in there were the Hobbit cartoon and the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe cartoon. Right. And then I think we also had Golden Child. So there was and Labyrinth. So all of these things I grew up watching over and over and over again. And so it's just I've been watching fantasy as long as I can remember watching anything. But yeah, and then once I moved and had access to books, like the one of the first things, like then I read a lot of Goosebumps and Fear Streets, so I went into the horror route. And then, like, when we'd come here over the summer and I had access to the library and as many books as I wanted to check out, my God, I just running through anything I could get my hands on. So it was a very organic thing. And then, of course, by the time I got older, the series that shall not be named came in my life in a very big way, but more importantly got me started with online role-playing because once again I was still in Saudi Arabia and it allowed me to write with people on the internet, and so I started doing a lot of so my roots are in role-playing wise are in written RP, and then I slowly over time switched to actual plays once I found people to play with, and the hobby started becoming more inclusive.
I think that is so cool. We have the women that I've interviewed take like one of a couple different paths. Books and movies almost always play into it, and it's either like the fantasy path or the sci-fi path.
Yeah.
And there are a couple that's like, yeah, do whatever, but like. Or the other path was, it was forbidden. Satanic panic in my house. It was all forbidden, and I loved it all for the taboo of it all, and like I hid it, and my friends supported my habit, and like that kind of a thing. So yeah.
I mean, technically, it was forbidden because I was in Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Although, you know how I said I didn't have access to the library? The nerdiest accomplishment in my life was starting a informal book trading library with my classmates in the 5th grade. So we didn't have access to all these books, but we'd all go back to India because I was at the Indian school in Saudi Arabia, and we would bring back books into the country. And so I don't know, I got obsessed with horror and I started reading Fear Streets. And so my friends and we started like a trading library, and in order to join, you had to bring in one of the books that was not on our list, and then we just circulated it, and everybody read everybody's books, because what are you gonna do?
That's that's exactly what you do. You necessity is the mother of all invention. I love that. I think that's amazing. I was talking with Najra on the very first episode. She's from Colombia, and she was talking about, obviously like an extremely heavily Catholic country, and they were very limited in what they could get. And so what they could get was often like in Italian, or like coming over from Europe rather than coming down from the States. So like the games and stuff that she had access to were often coming from there. And yeah, you do what you have to like to fill those needs in yourself. And I love that you were supporting other people to also become nerds.
Well, I was kind of strong-arming them into it because we were also the popular kids. And we're like, if you want to be in our book club, you gotta commit.
The popular kid book club. That is a...
Reading was cool. We made reading cool.
That would be a hell of a game. Like a Kids on Bikes, popular kid book club. I think would be such a good... There you go. There's an idea for somebody to stream. I love that so much. So then what was your first experience in TTRPG? What were those like?
So I had a lot of friends in college tell me that like I should play D&D. I would love it because of all of my interests in life. Yeah. But I never was around people who did it. And so finally my first time watching a tabletop was when I was visiting a friend, and she had Critical Role on. And I was like, wait, this is... And I was like, this was very early days. So I was like, oh, this is cool. This is streaming. But then that friend, plus a bunch of other online friends who wrote together, we decided to do... Because none of us could get a campaign going in person, we decided to do a campaign over... Goodness, I believe it was Skype.
Hey.
So we did a virtual campaign over Skype. It didn't last very long just because we were kind of all over the place. Time-wise, and this was when I was still in big law, so I just had very little time generally. But that kind of started, like, kindled that flame of getting to play in person, and then... Not in person. Getting to play myself.
Right.
And it just kind of started steamrolling from there. I joined my first actual play stream in we started talking about it at the end of 2018 and it went up in January of 2019.
Right.
So that was that was like my first time being on the internet playing, and never stopped.
Right. And so you were like well before the pandemic, and you watched, like, I assume you watched over the course of the pandemic it like really take off.
Yeah.
In a big way. I know that, I mean, I know obviously a ton of actual plays existed, like your own, but yeah, like I can just imagine when people were home and desperate for connection and to have those experiences, that has been a really common thread with people that I've talked to, with the women that I've talked to. So you started with D&D. What other game, is that what you said? You started with D&D?
Well, so it actually, I started watching D&D. So D&D was what I was most familiar with, but that short-lived campaign we did was actually GURPS, because the DM really wanted to try it. So we're like, yeah, okay, it's fine.
Was your DM... Sorry, I don't mean... I'm interrupted. I can't say I don't mean to interrupt. I'm too excited and I can't stop.
No, it's totally fine.
Was your DM a hardcore nerd? Like, GURPS is like a system.
GURPS was a lot.
That's a lot of a system. Mm-hmm.
It was, and that's one of the reasons why it kind of didn't work for us, because we were remote GURPS.
Right.
It takes so long to do things in GURPS that when you are remote, it starts to especially in battle, it just starts to fizzle out, like, because you can do so little on your turn that and especially if, everyone's neurodiverse, which, I mean, so many of us are, it's hard to hold attention. And so that one kind of, I still have the book somewhere, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to revisit that, just because I'm so used to the action economy of other systems that, 1 second is just hard. But that was for a couple months, and then I moved on to D&D. The first campaign I was ever in streaming wise was a Pathfinder campaign. It was still first edition. The second edition wasn't out yet.
Again, like a real meaty system.
That one I was lucky though, because I was with a lot of people who knew what they were doing. Pathfinder luckily had programs that helped. I played a Magus, which was so intense, but I programmed in all of my attacks and everything into Roll20, into macros, and so I could just press a button, and I had no idea how anything was calculated after the first time I put it in there. It was great.
But it worked. And you had
It worked because I pressed the button. It was my friends helped me like do all like the calculations. So I don't actually know how any of that worked. They just told me, okay, this is the calculations. I typed it into a macro, and I was like, see you again, never.
Yep.
And so that was good. Yeah, exactly. So that was wonderful, because like, Roll20 existed already by that point. We had, what did we play on? We played on Discord. Mm-hmm. So Discord, so we had Discord. Luckily, I mean, it all ended up going well for me because I already had all of my streaming equipment before the pandemic, and like the mad run on webcams and mics and everything. So we were all set up, and we already had the knowledge of how to do this remotely and on Twitch before any of this went down. So that ended up being a blessing in disguise. But yeah, since then I have played everything under the sun.
So that's what I was going to ask, is like, what are some of your favorite systems and why? Because like, what do you look for in a game? Are you, obviously you're an excellent role player. Is that the first thing you're looking for when somebody comes to you and pitches an idea? Like, what are you looking for? What are your favorite systems to make that happen?
So I am pretty system agnostic at this point, because one of the shows that I have been pretty involved in on Manapod Studios, the same channel where I started out, is Flights of Fandom, where we do different fandoms about every month. Sometimes we do a one-shot month, so it's every week. Oops, my earring just fell out of my ear. That's exciting. But the reason I like it is because we pick different systems every single time to fit whatever fandom we're in.
That's cool.
One of the systems we've been using a lot is a hack of Scum and Villainy, which is a hack of Blades in the Dark, that one of the people in our that David, who's in our community and a game designer, he made. And we've used it for Star Wars, we've used it for pretty sure we use it for Firefly. We've used it for all
Yeah.
sorts of things, whether or not they involve space. So, like, in terms of systems, I'm okay with Powered by the Apocalypse, Blaze in the Dark, and adjacent systems because I like that they are not as crunchy and they allow for more storytelling. And I do um, tend to lean more towards RP, but I do like good battles every now and then because it's just fun to hit things.
It's fun, right? I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
I had been very D&D specific because like I work 2 jobs plus I run this Twitch channel with my founders, and as hard as it is to run a Twitch channel by yourself, running it in committee is like it takes so much more effort, and and all, you know how it goes. We're trying to figure it out, and so I was just like a little bit terrified of learning other rule systems. D&D did not come super, although I started with like fifth. I mean, I had played like 3.5. It was a horrible experience. 5th edition was so much better for so many reasons that I love about the game. And so I was really nervous to try other systems. And I don't know if you know Tavernaut. He did a Texas Transrite RPG-a-thon, and he had me in for a Blades of the Dark one-shot. And I was like, well, I can do anything in a one-shot because you don't really have to pay attention to the rules in a one-shot. You just come in with a compelling character, and the DM kind of makes things happen. That's why I love one-shots. And I ended up really falling in love with Blades in the Dark and, like, the messy success system. And there's...
Yes.
Come on. Like
it's
as a
good RP.
Storyteller, there's so much that you can do with that. And then he talked me into a Scum and Villainy. So we turned the one shot of Blades in the Dark into a series, and then we're going to do a Scum and Villainy.
Nice.
And I'm excited to try it. But it helps that I trust the person running it to like know that I'm not going to know all the rules, and they're not going to make me feel bad about that. Like, I think that helps also.
The other thing that helped was I went to Gen Con in 2019.
Are you going this year?
I'm not going this year. I can't because I don't know when I'm going to have to go to Australia.
Oh, fair.
So, gotta save my coins for that. But when I went in 2019, it was my first time, but I had friends that had been going regularly. So I just asked them what they were doing and kind of followed them. And they were very much of the, like, we try playing all of the game systems we're interested in. Right. So that's what I did. I didn't play a single D&D game. I didn't play a single Pathfinder game. All I played at Gen Con were systems that were new to me. And it was amazing, and I had so much fun. I played several Magpie games. I don't even know what I played, but I played so many different things and in such a short time, and exactly like you said, in that one-shot system, with convention tables, they're designed to be pick up and play.
Right. And
that was so wonderful to not have the expectation of knowing the system in any sort of way, not have to go through the character generation or anything, just getting there and seeing how well a story you can tell, like, and how comfortable you feel. And then, from that, because of course a lot of Magpie games are Powered by the Apocalypse. So I didn't even know what the system was, but I went there, I was shown how to play, I played, and we ended up telling some beautiful stories. And then, and in retrospect, I was like, okay, I love the system this is based on because it is very, like, you can go for 45 minutes without rolling, which I know some people hate, but if you're doing juicy RP, I'm totally for that.
Right. And that's something I know you said earlier before we were live that you haven't been a DM, that's not part of your...
I've DM'd once, but it's not my thing.
It's not your thing.
Yeah, no, I'm not a DM. That's for sure. I tried. I tried. It was great because it was on his channel. It doesn't exist anymore, but the whole purpose of that was to invite people who are new to tables, new to DMing and everything. And so I played, I ended up DMing for the first time ever, so I just did like a pre-made module for an all ESL table. It was wonderful. Amazing. I had a great time, but I don't think DMing is my strong suit.
Sure.
So I tried it. I loved it, but not as much as I love playing. So.
But you got to try, right? You got to try.
Yeah.
That's
what I thought.
Yeah, and I'm, and what a cool table to DM for. One of the things that almost all of the women who are DMs that I've talked to have said is the dice are another player, and the DM's job is to support the players to tell a good story. And so if the dice aren't helping tell that story, they don't get to participate anymore. And I really love that way of like thinking about, the dice. Sometimes it's cool to have that critical fail and like, and it causes a lot of dramatic tension in a way that you weren't expecting. But also sometimes the dice shouldn't get a say. And
I definitely was not one of those DMs. I am that. Well, I mean, I roll online, so there is no fudging of rolls when you as a player. But yeah, no, I definitely fudged rolls as a DM because we were starting a level 1 to 3 campaign. Like, I'm not going to punish a player who has 7 hit points and take them out and have them roll a whole new character when it's when the entire series was planned to be 6 weeks long. Right. Like, you don't want, and these people, we worked really hard to create these characters. I'm not gonna. Everyone was so attached to them. They barely got to scratch the surface of storytelling. I was like, no, we're doing an ESL table for new players, new DMs. Everybody, I believe, was first time streaming. I'm not gonna make them have to go through all of that again. That's terrible.
Full disclosure, I did kill a character, a first level character on our second stream for what was going to be a long-term campaign. But none of them were, one of them was new to the system, but had been a long time like Vampire the Masquerade players. So kind of understood that it was not outside of the realm of possibility. Also, they rolled a natural 1 on their death save, and there was already like a reincarnation mechanic within their character backstory. So
that's different for sure. But no, and you can't fudge that roll.
No. But my mod is giving me shit in the chat about it. So I just thought I'd give people context that I did. That was me. I killed somebody. So.
Well, reincarnation, like. I think that's also different because reincarnation is on the table. Also, it really just depends on the table and the safety mechanics that you've put in place beforehand, and we had not discussed it. Like, we had not gone in knowing that it could be a potentially fatal campaign, so I also wasn't going to pull that out on them without advance notice.
So that brings me to a question that isn't on my sheet of questions, but I always like bringing it up. I always like asking when it comes up is, what are some of the best safety tools that you play with or that you have seen other people play with?
So safety tools wise, the best I have ever seen is actually in one of my long-term campaigns that I'm in right now, which is a horror campaign, and like, it is meant to scare you, right? Like, I think I would, if you've ever read Emily Carroll's work, the campaign has a lot of the same vibes, but we work hard with our DM to make sure that we're only going into things that are scary, that are not on anyone's lines and veils. So we did the RPG safety checklist at the very beginning of the campaign, but then we revisited it because as things go on, you realize like, hey, I never thought about that, but that actually makes me uncomfortable. But we have taken breaks for safety work mid-campaign. We always have like XNNO going on in the chat in the background, and so we've and it also helps that I really trust the table, that we can be like, hey, this is a very intense thing, can we take a break? And check in with each other. Another horror podcast that I'm working on recording, the Fear and Live in Color one, that one's not, we're pre-recording those sessions because the podcast is going to be edited, but we are constantly doing safety work once again. Even when it's just like a very intense emotional scene, we are like doing X and an O in the background because it is a lot. And so for my Strange Hungers campaign, even though nobody, it's an all queer table and nobody's a cis male at that table, characters are playing cis men. The players are playing cis men, so they will be like, oh goodness.
JJ, this is, if Puja, if you haven't played with JJ yet, you have to at some point. She's kind of newish to the scene, but she is the bestest of people. She doubled just now our subscriber. We hit affiliate in our first 30 days, which was only last week, actually.
That's so sweet.
And JJ, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That's incredible.
So kind.
You were talking about safety tools.
Yes, I just got distracted because the chat just went woo.
It took off. Safety tools. Yeah. So tell me about X, N, and O, because I don't know that I've heard that one before.
Oh, okay. So X, N, and O. The X card, everybody knows what an X card is. That's like a total, like, this is a stop sign. We are stopping what we're doing in its spots and just completely what we'll sometimes do is we'll go to break if we need to, if it's not clear what is being X'd, or we'll just change the scene or something. And I think of it's X and an O to me is also kind of, it goes along with red light, yellow light, green light.
Right.
So the X is a red light, N is a yellow light, and then O is okay, or a green light.
Okay.
So, in the podcast, we can do them with hand signs or just type them in the chat. It's just one letter. It's shorter than typing red, green, yellow. But what I was saying is what I really appreciated in my game is that we had a character playing a very, like, large, imposing, stoic man.
Right.
And Sloan, who plays him, would, came to us and says, like, hey, there might be forms of aggression that are masculine coming out. I want to make sure, and they're not going to be directed at anybody in game, but I want to make sure that everybody's okay with that. And that's just so mindful of the fact that a lot of people have trauma stemming from aggression from incredibly large, physically overpowering men, and we want to make sure that that is something that everyone is comfortable with portraying and being around. And so, like, that kind of safety level, I know some people are going to be like, that's so excessive, this and that, but our policy at this table, because we are going into horror, we are going into things specifically designed to press the characters' buttons, we're very much of a, like, it's like, get consent on the front end. Don't surprise people. You can surprise people in character without having to surprise them in a bad way as players. And that's kind of the line that we're always trying to toe is secrets. What secrets should not be kept from players, but can still be secrets on screen.
Yeah. I really respect that so much. It's so, and I think the other piece is that really supports all kinds of players, not just people who have that trauma, but like for neurodivergent, I'm on the autism spectrum, for people who are neurodivergent with like social struggles, it's hard enough to feel like I'm missing cues as a human. It really triggers me if I feel like my character is being gaslighted or is missing cues as part of the bit. And so, like, having that open and honest communication is so critical for me to continually feel safe at a table. And I think the thing that I have struggled with and that is so unique to this new world that we find ourselves in the pandemic is, it's one thing to be sitting around a table with your friends, even if you're like slightly uncomfortable, saying, hey, dude, that sucked. You probably still can do it, or at least if you walk away and ignore them for the next week, they know that they've done something wrong. But if you only know these people online and the only time you talk is like the 5 minutes that you're setting up tech before the stream, they might not know that you're upset at them. And so there was two things that you pointed out that I really like. The first is lines and boundaries change over the course of a game. And not just because of who we are, but also because of like the bleed from the characters that we play. Yeah. So because it affects my character, it might affect me in a different way than I thought it was going to, or I didn't think about it, and now it does affect me. So that ongoing check-in of the safety, I really love that. As a DM, I send an anonymous check-in at about the especially in my limited series, about the halfway mark, just to be like, what is our table doing good, but what can our table do better? Do you feel respected as a player? Do you feel respected as a character? Is there anything going on that we could be proactive about? And like soliciting that anonymously, and then like not being a dick and going and looking for the person who put something that you may not agree with, like, but like taking it honestly. And you said something else that was super brilliant, and I got sidetracked, so I don't know.
Happens. Well, and I think safety tools are, that's why they are so important, and especially when you are going to a new table. Like if I'm going to go to a new table for a one shot or anything, like unless it is something where it's strictly like I was in a one shot where we were just a bunch of kobolds causing chaos, and that was the whole point of the charity
Sure.
stream. Like that's one thing, but if I'm going to be in like a any sort of other storytelling,
Right.
like if there's no safety work done beforehand, that
Right.
is concerning to me.
Yeah.
And what my DM did for this horror game, because I didn't really know anybody else at the table coming in, was that he combined all of our safety sheets into one thing, and then they sent it out to everybody. And so
Yeah.
it was an anonymous sheet. Now, as we've
Yes.
updated it, we have been a little bit more comfortable. So, like, one of the things that came out was I have a fear of deep water, and I was just like, you know what? I don't really want my character to have to think about like worry about like running out of air or not knowing how to swim to the top. Like that's just not a position I want to be in.
Right.
But I had never put it on a safety checklist because it's not one that was on there, and it's not one that I had thought
Right.
about.
Right.
But like, on the second round of safety updated sheets that went around, I did add it in, and immediately a player was like, "Hey, I don't know who put this in there, but there's not drowning in my character's past, but there is some sort of like water situation. Is that okay?" But I felt comfortable enough at the table to be like, "Hey, that was me,
Right.
and my issues are only around my own character, not anybody else."
Yeah.
So, that's totally fine. And then, the DM was like, maybe we can get my character a tattoo that's just going to allow her underwater breathing.
Right.
And so
Like,
take that off the table
come
for all
on.
future encounters.
I love that DM so much because it doesn't, honestly, trauma doesn't have to exist in, like, it doesn't. Yep. I think
Yeah,
so.
and they're gonna design things. It's a horror campaign. They will design things meant to freak out my character, but it's
Sure.
gonna be things that I'm okay with them,
Yes.
with her being freaked out about, not things that are specifically I am not comfortable with.
Yes. Well, and that
that's
she would be
wonderful.
freaked out by. Like there is a little bit of a thrill when like you get that little bit of tension for yourself also. But
Yeah.
you also need to sleep that night and
Exactly.
feel good the next day. So yeah, I just it's something we put a lot of thought into when because we have 14 shows in production, and most of the people we really like to ask our DMs to like maybe cast some people that they don't normally play with to get a good diversity
Yeah.
and get a good mix. But that means that like as founders we get ourselves involved in session 0. So we look at the consent and safety list, we check in with players beforehand, not to like cut out the knees of the DM, but just to help facilitate that relationship building. So, I'll be able to say, oh, this person has marked eyeballs as their thing. This is the
Yeah.
very specific reasons around it. And if anybody else has anything, you can message me privately right now and I will speak to it with my voice. And so that you don't have to until you feel comfortable with this group that you
Yeah.
can. It has been really successful. And I know from myself from playing that there have definitely been times where I have not said anything because I didn't want to be the uncool kid who like had this thing. So having somebody be that voice who then isn't going to be necessarily in the campaign, but is somebody who can be there to be a safety double check. I think from a channel perspective, it's been so different for me to think about it from this perspective.
Yeah. And that's wonderful because you go over at the front end, then it just doesn't need to be in the campaign.
Yes.
We're playing in these completely open, imaginative worlds. Why would we be
Yeah.
if we know something is off the table in the beginning, there is nothing stopping us from doing literally anything else.
Yes. And that's like the whole thing around people being upset about the wheelchair. Like, you believe in dragons and fireball, but a wheelchair that hovers is what's going to
That is too much suspension of disbelief. I mean, like okay, those people, they're just not making arguments in good faith. It's just like whatever, go away.
But you know what? Find your best table. That is one of the other big things we keep saying is like, don't sit at a table you don't love. Because find a table you really, even if you're just like, man, this table's okay, maybe go find a table you really love. And those people, there are a lot of jerky, dick-filled tables out there, and they can find a table they love. They don't have to sit at mine. That's what I come down at it.
It just reminds me of a tweet that was saying that I forget that this hobby is filled with like cis straight grognards because of all the tables that I play with, and it's true. Like we've created, like at least online, like the community that I see and I'm a part of is just, it's so welcoming, it's so diverse, it's so focused on all types of inclusivity and safety that I literally forget what it's like out there in the big scary world, like walking into a comic book store.
Yeah.
Or a gaming store, and the things you're going to face there.
Right? Twitter is not the public sphere. You can curate your space. You really, and you should. Like Sade the other day posted a picture of like Snoop dancing at the Super Bowl, and she was like, the block button is free. Don't. Yeah. Like, it's there. They put it in there for a reason. You should use that. It doesn't cost you. Curate your space. Curate your peace. Yeah. That was something for sure. Said to me one, and I was like, yeah, I feel that. Okay. It is definitely time for everybody's favorite piece of this. Can you show us some of your favorite dice? And like, where you got them? And
I can. Well, the first dice I have to show, I don't know where they came from because they were a gift from my fiance. But it is this
if you put hollow. If you put like your hand behind it, sometimes it shows. They're so pretty.
So it's a completely hollow D20 set, and they have like the kind of rainbow sheen,
like the oil,
the oil slick.
Oil slick.
But they're because they're hollow. The whole set is hollow. They're really lightweight and fun to roll,
and
they roll pretty well.
The numbers.
Yes.
I have a
and
they
roll
slick,
really one for me.
I can't read the numbers on them, so they sit on my shelf looking pretty.
Yeah. This is a 3D printed golden die. This one you're not going to be able to read just because the lights are going to be all funky. This one I ended up taking a silver Sharpie to the numbers myself to have it be legible, but I do love it because I love hollow dice. Like, they're just great. Let's see what I have. This one a friend gifted me. Okay, this is a Dispel dice from the Kickstarter, and my friend Des is just an incredible human and sent me an entire set because she loves me, and it's stunningly beautiful. I mean, no camera will do it justice.
Really, Dispel dice really knows their stuff.
I know. Just stay there like mesmerized. Oh, while I was going through my dice duffel, I found these little
dice duffel. Did everybody hear? She said dice duffel. She's not lying.
I said dice duffel. It's okay. Hold on. She went and pretty heavy. It's not exactly a duffel, but it's very heavy, and it's definitely a weapon. I love it. I got this custom made off of an artist on Twitter, and I love it so much. It's so and it does have like, so it was great because I got to pick the outside fabric, I got to pick the inside lining, and it has enough compartments for all of my different types of dice. And okay, so this is a Die Hard dice. Hold on, okay. These dice split into two and have a very strong magnet, and so I have the Paladin set, which is golden, and the inside is like you can't really see, it's white on the inside with gold numbering. So it's very legible in person.
Right.
And then the other set I picked up was the Monk ones, because I just thought this blue is incredibly beautiful.
With like is it like a copper? Is it like a rose gold?
Yeah, it's like copper. Oh, but what I love about this is that I can attach
the dice. They're magnets, and they come apart, and you can.
They come apart. So they call these their multi-class dice, and I love them because they're also stim toys for me at the table, because I just sit there playing with the clicky clack magnets. Yeah. Oh.
Look. A girl's got a pop. I hear that. Is it just the D20s?
I got one last thing. Yeah, it's just the D20s that I got, because but they spent a lot of time engineering those to roll.
Yeah. And that's Die Hard dice, you said?
That is Die Hard dice. And the last thing I'm going to show you is also Die Hard dice. So I was recently, and still am, in a long shot on the Total Party Kiss network that's run by Super Dylan,
Yeah.
and
Love
it's the
Super
Vampire the Masquerade.
Dylan.
Oh yes, love, 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 love. But it's so he's a Dice affiliate with Die Hard Dice, and so
Right.
was able to get us these dice, which my green screen's gonna mess this all up, but they are glow in the dark
What?
D10s for our Vampire the Masquerade campaign,
Yes.
and this is their dice light that if you plug it on this side it has the black light, and if you plug it on this side it just has a regular light.
Right.
And this dice tray is all Die Hard dice, and the glow in the dark dice are just so freaking cool. I have a video on my Twitter. If you go to my media, it's not that far
Yeah.
back of me
That's
just rolling them. They're so stunning, and the dice light is genius because I know a lot of people like myself end up having just lights on our face, and most of the
right.
lights in our room are off when
Right.
you're playing, and so being able to see your dice easily is wonderful.
It's huge.
It is so cool. But
Yeah.
yeah, glow in the dark dice. Like,
Glow
oh,
in
it's
the
just
dark
not gonna work.
dice.
It's not gonna work with my green screen.
From Die Hard Dice with the blacklight module. That is okay. That's pretty cool. That's pretty.
Yeah, the clip on light is just really smart. Generally, it's a magnetic clip. It can clip to any dice tray. Like I said,
Yes.
this side is just regular white light. Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's just to light up your dice rolls during your games.
That's pretty tight. Die Hard Dice. My mod will pop the link in chat.
Yeah.
I warned you pre-stream that I would ask, like, what is an NPC that you have come across as a player that you really loved, like the thought or the intention or just the interaction? What's a memorable NPC you've encountered?
One of the favorite NPCs I've encountered is in my Strange Hungers campaign. My DM, they created a character that was just meant from the beginning to be a comfort character.
Okay.
And so her name is Beloved. She's she's a trans woman. She's a pink-skinned tiefling, but she is the nicest, sweetest, kindest character. And it's very interesting because what I love about a good NPC is I love a divisive NPC. So this character came in and was super friendly and super kind and super sweet, but it was also really fun watching a host of reactions to somebody who is that. You had our elf wizard who is much older than everybody else in the party and has a very hard life and is just instinctively distrusting of everybody on one end of the spectrum, who's just like, I know people like you, I don't trust people like you. And then on the polar opposite end of the spectrum is my character, who I deliberately am playing a very young, not world wise noble, who's like kind of on her first adventure. Like everybody else in the party already has like backstory and lore, and it's like my character's out to get lore because she hasn't done anything yet. And so her interaction, she's just like, oh my god, it's somebody who's so sweet and so nice, and like, why wouldn't I give somebody the benefit of the doubt the first time I met them?
Of
like
course.
her view on life is like, people have to lose my faith. Like, I'm not just going to distrust people at the get-go. And it's just watching a good NPC kind of pull those threads out, and I just that is just such good DMing. I mean, I could write love mail to Alex forever. They're a genius. But yeah, just watching NPCs who are designed, and the only way you can get to designing NPCs that way is to know your table well, know where their boundaries are, know these characters well, know what make them tick. And so it's just really, really fun to have what, seemingly is a really nice person pull out these strong emotional reactions out of people. And so like so there's never like a specific kind of NPC that I'm attracted to, but I love NPCs that are deliberately designed to not cause issues, but it's RP fodder.
Right.
Because you can really get into like there's so much discussion that just came out of this one interaction for all of our characters, and it allowed us to get to, because our characters didn't know each other, we got to get to know each other better, we got to know what makes each other tick, and it's really cool that like one NPC can bring out so much character work.
I love that so much. Who are some of the other inspirations, either like when you were starting out, or that inspire you now, or new up and comers? Shout out anybody who you would like to. This is when I put my mod to the real work.
Oh, okay.
Everybody. So you put as many people on this list. Let me also, I always throw this disclaimer. I don't prep my guests for this question. So if you are a deeply meaningful person and they have forgotten to mention you, that's on me. That is not, there is so much pressure. Like, I literally saw sweat pour off somebody's face a couple weeks ago. This is not a reflection on you and your relationship with my guest. This is a hard question, and there is so many people who pop to people's minds. So I just throw that disclaimer out there. But carry on. All of the inspirations that you would like to shout out.
So inspiration-wise, I've always gravitated more towards being inspired by my peers versus, the upper echelon of an industry.
I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
Go.
So what I love is, as I spent more time in this space, I have gotten to know so many more people, and like, everybody 100% has their own way of telling stories and is unique, and every table I've been at has been different. But, I will say so most of my favorite work that I'm doing right now has been on the Total Party Kiss Network, and so I'm just going to shout out everybody involved. That includes everybody with my Strange Hunger Games. That includes Dylan and other people that I haven't had a chance to play with yet, but will in the future. And the reason for that is I'm kind of on the I'm kind of the old person. Well, not just me, some other people, and I'm not going to shout out other people's ages, but there's a lot of youth, a lot of young talent and hunger from all of the people around me, and it's just so inspiring. And, I know a lot of people get inspired from, like, people who have achieved a lot, but I also get inspired by that thirst, by that drive, by that desire to, and the ability, like, these folks, like, I truly believe have the power to change the industry and have the talent to do so. And, like, that is so inspiring to me, to be around that kind of energy. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I quit my first big career thing and moved on to a different one. Like, I know what it's like to be jaded and to be burned out, and so to be surrounded by people who aren't that is amazing, and it's so beautiful. And I do think that, like, there's a lot of that in the tabletop industry generally. Especially if you curate your following, there's so much energy, there's so much pulling friends up. I know Dylan just posted about this recently, but they said that if they play with someone and they ask her for recommendations, you're gonna get a whole list. And, like, one of my other favorite people, KP, he's the same way. There's so many good people in this industry who will help pull people up with them, and that to me is beyond inspirational. Right. And definitely what I think everybody can aspire to do, because I don't think that this is an industry where we're not competing with each other. We're here to define this industry from the ground up. It doesn't have, like, this is the generation of people who are coming up in this brand new industry where there isn't really a clean path. A lot of people who are popular in this industry were popular in something else, whether it was as Twitch streamers, whether it was as voice actors, video gamers, whatever. But we're creating this industry from the ground up. Mm-hmm. So there's no reason we can't do it together.
I love that. One of my I started streaming with Vancouver by Night, like the channel, like Vampire the Masquerade channel.
Yeah, yeah.
Although I did like D&D content on their channel, and Steve, who's the owner over there, and Joe, who I saw lurking in chat earlier, they are the hugest fans of A Rising Tide Raises All Boats. And we are not going to do this together. Even if we could, we wouldn't want to. Because we don't want to produce all the stories. There's so many stories that need to be told. Yeah. So give everybody a space to tell their stories. Like, YouTube will save your episode for later, like go and support somebody. That has always really stuck with me. And I appreciate what you have said there.
Yeah. Oh, and I will say, for those who don't know, if you are watching a Twitch stream and you have other friends that are streaming, remember, even if you have another tab open that's muted, it gives them the view. So support all your friends who are streaming at one time. It's good
stuff. Buy another. That's what I did. I bought a streaming rig, and so then I just leave my PC or my Mac just with 15 or 20 Twitch streams.
Oh, so yeah, I have I have a relatively new computer and it can handle it. So I actually have like multiple Twitch tabs open right now because give them the views, give them the support. It costs nothing as long as it doesn't take your computer down.
I'm 100%. That is excellent work. I told you that this would be a quick hour. I hope it has been a quick hour for you.
Yeah.
At like the end.
I know.
It's amazing. Talk about yourself for a second. Where else are you going to be? What do you have coming up? Where can people find you? All of those things.
Sure, I had to pull up my calendar because it's the month of overcommitment. And sorry about all the itching. I got allergy shots right before this, and I'm so itchy. The most exciting thing I'm going to be doing tomorrow is one of the panels that is on Transplaner's channel, and it's going to be from 3 to 4 p.m. Central, so 4 to 5 Eastern. And it's a host of amazing people. Let me get the name of the panel. It's the Making It Personal panel. And, well, Anne's in there. She'll tell you all about it.
Anne's here. Yes.
I believe she's moderating it.
Is she?
Right.
Anne, what are you doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
I adore. You were talking a second ago about just that youthful energy that like keeps you going and keeps you from being jaded. Anne is that for me. She called me the other day. She was like, oh, you're just the big sister that I don't really. She's the oldest in her family. She was like, you're just the big sister I don't really have. And I was like, thanks. I really needed that little sister. I need that energy, that love, and that acceptance. It was very sweet. She says she is moderating and came up with the name for the panel.
So I'll let Anne put the details about that panel tomorrow, but I'm very excited about that. And then, let's see, what else do I have usually going on every week? I have, I'm coming to the end of a Flights of Fandom stream for May. We did Star Wars, and so that's on Manapot Studios on Tuesday. You'll be able to find links to everything in my card, which I've seen has been
several times, yeah.
Yeah, so please do come see that. Every other Wednesday, I'm on Nat One Fun's channel playing Running Feywild, which is a long-form campaign set in the Feywild. It's D&D 5e. That was the stream we ended up not doing yesterday, and we ended up pivoting like with 2 hours notice. We did a mad scramble to put together a fundraiser instead because, multiple of us in that stream are in Texas. Several of us... 2 other people are in the San Antonio area with kids who are school age. It was just too much, and so I was just like, hey, we don't have to cancel if people want to just play Jackbox games. We scrambled. I will also plug the charity that we raised money for yesterday at the end, but we it was a lot of scrambling to research charities who are going to get the money to the people who need it. Right. And we ended up raising over $1,000 with very little notice, so that was a little soothing balm on my soul. But that was on Nat One Fun's channel, and that's where my Running Feywild campaign is. Thursdays I'm usually either playing with Total Party Kiss or with Wandering Society, and it's usually short form games. And then Saturdays I am every week on Strange Hungers, the horror campaign that I was talking about, and every other Saturday right now, overcommitment is my middle name right now, I play Corporate Raiders Mechton on Praxagora Thesmophoria's channel. But yes, long links, long names, all of it will be in my card.
Uh, that is so excellent. Thank you so much for being my guest, and for coming and
Absolutely.
talking to me. You mentioned Transplanter is doing this amazing series of things. That is who we're going to be rating.
I
Because
think they have another panel on right now, and it's
they're
about
running
horror.
right now. It's got Noir and Orion and Brandy and Kappa and Aki is running it. So I'm super. The name of the thing is called "It's Our Villain Arc." And I'm already
Yeah.
like super intrigued. It's going to be excellent. Thank you so much for being my guest.
Of course, I'm so happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Anytime, anytime. And thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you, JJ, for the incredibly sweet gift subs. I appreciate you so much. We are going to be back next week with Anne, actually, is my guest next week.
Yay!
So look at that. Thank you to everybody. These next few weeks are great weeks. Like you and I have Haley Bell coming up, and that Candace girl, and Anne next week, and then Finway the Teen DM. Like it's gonna be bananas. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Thanks everybody. We will see you next week. And give a follow if you're here, because Girls Run These Worlds has 14 shows in production. We will have something that you will like. So
Yeah.
thanks so much. Thank you, Puja.
Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, I loved it so much. Okay, we're going to raid in a second. Thanks, everybody, for being here. We'll see you next week.